Today we will discuss the optimal size of local authorities. The optimal size of local authorities. Of theory of cloud. When we started the discussion on different types of goods, you might remember when we discussed clock goods. So we are drawing some insights from the theory of club. So basically, relating to the club good, because we are discussing the optimal size of the local authorities. That means we are going to talk about the provision of the local public goods, okay? And it is not a pure public good. So in case of pure public good, there will be no congestion issues, okay? But in case of local public goods, there will be congestion issues, okay? And so you can say that club good would be one type of local public good, right? Yeah, where you may have congestion problem, like in a club, okay, you will not have enough space. And even for merit good also, so club good and merit good have the similar characteristics, right? So in merit good also, you may face this problem, okay, of overcrowding in some cases. But typically in club goods, there will be congestion problem. So that's why, since we are going to talk about the local public goods or the size of the local government, we are applying the theory of the clubs. That is why there are two references can be used. One is James Buchanan, 1965, and Musgrave book. Musgrave and Musgrave. And of course, I am using the book John Pulis and Philip Jones. So the author John Pulis and Philip Jones uses these two references for explaining the optimal size of the local authorities, or you can say optimal size of the local government, whether it is a panchayat or say municipality or you can say NSC, like that, or local governments, where the local governments are responsible for providing the local public goods. Can you give example of some local public goods?
Water and sanitation.
Water and sanitation, street lights, okay, and you can say ponds, okay, and even protection of the common property resources sometimes are taken charge by the local authorities. And so this would be basically all the expenses that are given to the local governments even in Indian context also, you can see. Say all the responsibilities mentioned in 73rd Amendment and 74th Amendment. Okay? In India, how many powers have been given to panchayats? 29 powers.
29.
And 18 powers to urban local bodies. So those things you can say that these are considered or treated as the local public goods at least in Indian context. Okay? So we'll be using a four-quadrant diagram to explain the optimal size of the public good. Four-quadrant diagrams are very interesting, right? You might have used in ISLM curves, and for explaining the downward rigidity of wages. So there, in economics, in macroeconomics, those are used. Four-quadrant diagram. So here Also we are going to use 4 quadrant diagrams. People, this is quadrant 1, quadrant 2, 3, 4, right? Which one is quadrant 1? The book writes this is 1, this is 2. But I think we have studied differently, right? Huh? This is 1, no? 1, 2, 3, 4. So it goes anti-clockwise. So I think we can use our understanding. So say 1, 2, and 3, 4. So we'll start with quadrant 1. In quadrant 1, we are going to take the optimal population. So n we are taking. N is the optimal, the population. Okay. And in x-axis we are taking population, and in y-axis we are taking the per capita cost and benefit. Per capita costs and benefits. Okay. So, okay, what are the two problems that we will be facing in case of when you think about determining the optimal size of the local government? One is that we have to think about the optimal size of the public good and the optimal population. Okay. So what should be the size of a panchayat? Whether we should have 10,000 population or 20,000 population or 30,000 population, okay, or 5,000 population. That is one question. What is the optimal population? And then other would be the optimal size of the public good, a local public good. It's not a pure public good. So what is the optimal size of the local public good? These are the two questions that we will be basically addressing. Now, if you start with the optimal population size, okay, like how many people say would be living ideally in a panchayat or in NSC or in municipality, that we are going to discuss first. So, so when you think about the provision of any public good, some cost is involved, right? So there is a total cost and that is fixed. And when you allow more people to live in one, say, local authority, or in a region under, or in one jurisdiction of the local government, the per capita cost will decline, right? So that means you will have all the incentive to allow more people to live. So you can draw that diagram. That since here we have taken the per capita cost and benefits, we can draw the line that will it touch the x-axis if our fixed cost is it is fixed. Suppose the provision of a local public good requires some cost, right? And say it is say 1,000 rupees, suppose, or 1,000 crore, you can take. And now, when the population increases in that jurisdiction, your per capita cost will be declining. So basically, you can say that say this is T is the total cost and population is N, okay, and that is your per capita cost. So will it touch x-axis? It will never touch. Okay? So it is called rectangular hyperbola, right? It's just like average fixed cost curve you are drawing. It will decline steadily, but it will never become zero. It will become close to like zero, but if you go stretch it towards right side, but it will never become zero. So it is a rectangular hyperbola, and you can say give it as a name, say A. And so what is the implication? That when you have more people living in a particular jurisdiction under one local authority, your per capita cost is declining. Okay? And you can say that if you translate it as saving, okay, that when the population basically declines, your marginal saving from additional population would be increasing or it would be decreasing?
Increasing.
Saving would be increasing. Will it really increase? It will not increase. So when it is declining steadily, what is happening? Now the marginal improvements are not also increasing, right? your saving is there, that when population increases, your marginal saving from say additional population in a jurisdiction is not increasing. It is decreasing in fact. Yes or no? No, you just go towards right side and compare the per unit saving, because when you go to the right side, the changes are becoming very, very insignificant. Okay? So that means if you try to draw a marginal saving line, okay, for this average cost line, you will also find a similar downward sloping curve. Okay? And say you can say this is A prime, which is nothing but the marginal saving that is happening due to say inclusion of more and more people under one jurisdiction of the local government. And in fact, if you want to take how the numbers change, what you can do, you can take the derivative of this per capita cost, okay? And so this will be change in the cost due to change in the population. And what will be the value? Do you remember the derivative? If you take the derivative of this, no, this is
T.
T. T. This will be negative. T by n square, right? Yeah. So what does it mean? So when the population is increasing, this value is becoming it is increasing. You are taking square of the population. It is declining. Okay, so negative value. So it is declining, but it is not, if you take the ratio, when the denominator is becoming very big, so the numbers will be becoming very, very smaller, right? So you will be getting a downward sloping, almost similar kind of curve. Okay, so the message from this diagram is this curve is that one local authority will have the incentive to add more people so that your per capita burden, because you will have to pay user fee, it's not free, so you will have to pay tax. In a pure public good, people pay tax, but in a local public good case, you will have a user fee, okay? Or you can have a different tax. Say for example, we pay holding tax, okay? For common public goods, government collects, the local governments collect holding tax, okay? Because taxes definition you remember that it is a compulsory payment without any direct quid pro quo. Some people might be paying higher holding taxes because their house size is very big. Some people might be paying less holding tax because their house is small. But the benefits they enjoy in that jurisdiction is common, right? The roads, okay, or the park, okay, all those things. Of course, in case of park, they may introduce a user fee. But you can say basically the roads and other public utilities, they would be enjoying. The schools, okay, and health center in local government, those would be common public goods that they are all enjoying. And so when the population is increasing, your per capita burden is declining. So you will have all the incentive to add more and more people in one jurisdiction. But when you are bringing insights of the club goods or the theory of clubs, it always warns about the congestion problem. That when you are, okay, your per capita cost may decline, but it may create a congestion problem. Like we are discussing say, the case of Bhubaneswar Club, that if you add more members to Bhubaneswar Club, then your per capita cost of say creating something facility would decline. But again the Bhubaneswar Club would have limited space, and suppose you want to invite a Hollywood star for say a New Year celebration, and you want to enjoy that, and you want to dance with that, you will not have enough space to dance. You will lack elbow space, okay, and so you can't really dance. So that congestion problem arises, and so we can also show the burden of congestion. It would increase when the population increases, the cost of congestion. Okay, we can draw that, okay, and so again this is per capita cost of congestion, and say we take say as say B prime, we are using marginal cost, which is again increasing when the population size increases. Okay, so marginal cost of congestion due to rise in the population in one local jurisdiction, okay, and that is increasing. Okay, so now you know that. So there is one incentive to add more population into jurisdiction because the per capita cost will increase, so it will decline. But if you have too many people, then it will also create a congestion problem, and you cannot, that's why, add too many people into your jurisdiction. So there has to be some balance. So optimality you are deriving. So if you take, say, the benefits of adding more people, okay, this will be the saving, because this is the marginal saving that you are getting, or you can call this as the marginal benefits that you, additional benefit that you are deriving when more and more people are declining. And benefit is measured in terms of reduction in the per capita cost. This one, okay, that we have written. So reduction in the per capita cost is called as the per capita benefit. Okay, the marginal per capita benefit. Marginal again we are writing. That when we are adding more and more people, when the number of population increases, the benefits, the reduction in the cost is not really becoming very high. Okay, that is why we are drawing a downward sloping curve here, but that is, we can call this as the marginal benefit curve of adding more people in one jurisdiction. And then the cost, the marginal cost of adding more people into one jurisdiction. Okay, and so we have written B prime. So here you can get one optimal level, optimal population you can derive. So that would be, say, O we can write, say, optimal population, and we can write, say, 1. But this may also change when the size of the public good increases, right? It is not that local public goods are of specific size. You can always configure, okay, that you want a bigger, say, so when we were discussing the Bhubaneswar clock case, suppose you have bought a very big land, okay, and you have constructed huge, say, auditorium for dance, or you have huge open space, so more people can be accommodated. So that's a public good. Similarly, if you talk about, say, park, suppose park is a local public good, park can have a congestion, okay, and but if you have a very big park, that will require say, land acquisition cost, okay, and or you can think about, say, a pond, where people love swimming, okay, and also pond can generate revenues through fishing. So you basically can have fishery, so, and you get revenues, and so you can use it for multiple purposes, whether it is park or a pond. It may have congestion problem if everyone jumps to the pond for swimming, for learning swimming, okay. But if you have a very big pond, then your congestion problem declines. So that's why you can also draw another curve that when your when your size of the local public good increases, then your per capita congestion cost will say decline, right? When it is moving to right side, it is declining. And similarly, you can also talk about say, size of the public good and the cost. Now suppose when you are drawing this, that when the size of the public good has increased, your congestion cost is declining, but it will also have impact on the per capita cost. Like your T is now becoming, say, bigger T, or 2T. Okay? T size has now gone up. So you can say that now when you are trying to reduce the congestion problem, this will also have implications for the cost. So you can write, say, A and A prime, say A2 or A1, and just avoid the clotting. So what you can do, we are only considering the benefits. Okay. Now, so you can say that when there is a bigger public good, the saving, marginal saving from that, will be, say, the new curve. Will be, say, this is A prime 1. Okay. The marginal saving from a bigger public good where the cost is higher, okay, would also be higher. Okay. And so then the new equilibrium point will be B prime 2 and A prime 1, or we can, uniformity we can write A prime 2. So this will be the equilibrium point, right? This is your new equilibrium point. This is optimal quantity to population, optimal population size. Okay, so this is only one part of the story. You want to get so far. So this is optimal population we have derived. But the other question is what? Optimal size of the public good. So here we have drawn these two lines for two size of the public good. But we don't know actually what is the optimal size of the public good. But we have now derived the logic of optimal population size. That if the benefit of cost, the benefit of adding more people and the cost of adding more people through congestion. So we make a balance, not too many people to reduce the cost and not too less people. Okay, so you make a balance and you get the equilibrium point. So you can say this is E0 and this is E1, okay? Or E1, E2, E1, E2, E1, E2. So now in quadrant 2, we are going to derive the optimal size of the public good. Okay. What will be the optimal size of the public good? So first we have to know the demand curve, okay? Because demand will reflect the ability to pay and willingness to pay, okay? And what type of public good people are demanding. So there would be downward sloping demand curve, and say this is the demand curve. Okay, here when we are drawing one demand curve for one local jurisdiction, we are taking an assumption that the taste and preferences of the people living in one local jurisdiction is homogeneous, right? Or you can say that the demand curve is a representative demand curve for the entire people living in that jurisdiction. Okay, just like in our previous class, we are talking about a representative individual. So here that is a very strong assumption, but we can say that it will be probably close to reality. Okay, that because people choose the jurisdiction like where they want to live. Okay, and sometimes people may, in fact, it happens in cities particularly, that in which ward you want to live. Okay, depending on your income standard, you choose the location. Say in Bhubaneswar, whether you want to stay in Forest Park area or you want to choose Saliasai. Okay, two extremes you can take. Forest Park, elite, Navin Patnaik, our chief minister lives, and all like our Pinaki Mishra, the MP of Puri lives there. Former chief minister Janaki Patnaik lived there. Okay, so all big people live there, okay, and all senior IAS officers. You will see all rich people live in that area. Saliasai, you're all slum, so people with low per capita income would be living. And all the other middle class people choose some apartments somewhere here and there. Okay, so you can also say that that happens really, right? That you choose actually the zone that where you can live depending on your per capita income. So when you are drawing a demand curve, and we are assuming that it is homogeneous. Yes, it is a simplistic assumption, but somewhat you can say that it is reality or a local jurisdiction. And then, here we are first showing the demand curve, and then the other thing would be the cost curve, right? When you are providing a public good, okay, what happens to the cost? So demand and supply, okay? That when you are providing a bigger public good, okay, so here you are taking the size of the public good Q, okay? So what is happening now, when if you want to interpret the demand curve, you can say that when the prices are too high, people will demand small size of the public good, but when the prices go down, people will demand bigger public good. And when it comes to the cost, what happens? It's just like supply curve. Okay, when you want to provide more public goods or bigger size of the public good, the cost would be increasing. So, so this is your supply curve, and this is say okay M1 or M2 or any name you can give. Okay? And so if you want to change the size of the public good, okay, what would happen? So there will be a shift in the cost curve. So if you want to provide a So which one is bigger one and which one is smaller one? You can have set of. So which one will be bigger public good and which one will be a smaller public good? So if you are choosing M1, M2, M3, obviously the high cost one would be a bigger one, right? So this is marginal cost of production, sir. Whenever you are telling supply curve is nothing but the marginal cost curve. That when you are trying to supply extra unit of public good, your cost is also marginal cost is increasing. Okay, here. But there can be other cases also that constant marginal cost. Okay? But that is a very rare case. Okay? And usually in case of, particularly in case of local public goods, the cost would be increasing. Okay? Because here you don't get much economies of scale also. Okay? So, and it's a normal assumption. Usually the supply curves are upward sloping. So when you want to supply more public goods or any kind of public good, your amount is increasing. So here you have to see the willingness to pay and ability to pay, which is reflected in the demand curve, and the cost of supplying that public good, okay? And then you will be getting the optimal quantity. So here again you can get different equilibrium points, okay? And you can choose anything depending on other things. These are not independent. Okay? So here you are taking the benefit and cost, okay? That when you are adding more people, your per capita cost would decline, and then congestion problem is there. And here you are thinking about your ability to pay and the cost. Okay? But independently, if you don't think about the population, the equilibrium quantity can be derived depending on the demand and supply. Say, if people will have, suppose rich people will be living in this area, what would happen? The demand curve would shift upward, and then you will have no higher equilibrium. Similarly, in a low income area, your demand curve would be coming to downward, right? This side, right side. So that means your equilibrium will be at a low point. So depending on the region, okay, or depending on the per capita income of the people or living standard, the demand curve basically will determine, and the cost of which public good you want to supply. Okay? The expensive public goods or low expensive public goods. Okay? So that's how you will be getting an equilibrium point. Say, okay, you can say this is QE, say 1, QE2, and QE2, equilibrium quantity, right? And now you have to combine these two things. Then only you get the equilibrium, right? What will be the size of the optimal size of the local authorities? That depends on the optimal size of the public good and optimal population. Now so how do you bring these two things together? Okay, one easiest thing is that we take the mirror image of this equilibrium. Okay, that means just transpose. And how to transpose? Take a 45-degree line, 45-degree line, so that you can easily transpose and get this. Okay. So that means you can now bring here Q1 equilibrium quantity, Q2 equilibrium quantity, and Q3 equilibrium quantity. And here we have now population. Once we derive the optimal population and optimal quantity, now we have to bring together these two things to get the optimal size of the local government. And that's why we have taken this transposition to 45-degree line, and so optimal quantity has now come to this side. And so to get the equilibrium points, okay, so this is a little tricky one, and what we do, we take first to get good graphs. So we first get the equilibrium points. 2 and 2. Similarly, for 1 also you can take matching points, and this is your equilibrium point. And here you will be getting one would be this is your optimal population, and should be your optimal quantity UOPT. Yes, how to then interpret this, that n optimal is less responsive and optimal quantity is more responsive. So, and 2 with respect to what? Population. So, so here we are saying that n optimal, optimal population would be changing at less proportion when the optimal size of the public good changes. Okay, that means, okay, say 1% change in the size of the local public good would lead to change in less than 1% change in the optimal population size. Okay. Clear? So you may go increase the size of the public good, local public good, but the optimal population size does not change in that proportion. But in case of optimal quantity, so how the optimal quantity is influenced? It is influenced by the population, right? Because if you will have more population, then you can provide more public goods, because you may get actually more money. Okay, that's what you are thinking. Okay, and so but your demand would also be higher. But yesterday we were discussing that demand is reflecting your taste and preferences, ability to pay and willingness to pay. And here also, if you, since this is representative demand, okay, or you can say the aggregate demand, if there will be more people, this will also be going to the right side, right? More income or more people, this will be moving to the right side. So now we are discussing when the population size increases, how the optimal quantity is going to change. And here we are saying that when the population is increasing, say 1%, the change in the optimal level of public good changes at greater proportion, more than 1%. So you can say the responsiveness or elasticity is higher. Okay? And that's how we get this equilibrium. So now bringing together the optimal quantity and optimal population, we get the optimal size of the local government. So that means optimal size of the local government required 2 things: that what should be the size of the population living in one local jurisdiction, and what should be the optimal size of the public good. Okay? So conceptually, yes, the local government or the local administrator has to think about these 2 things. Okay? And we also discussed that when the income of the people would be higher, people can afford bigger public goods. You can allow more people to live, and the urban local bodies would have more population than the panchayat. In a typical panchayat in Odisha, population would be 10,000. What is the population in UP? Do you remember? Do you know? 20,000. In a panchayat, what is the population?
1 to 2,000 around.
2,000?
We have 50,000 panchayat.
No. In one panchayat, you are living in a panchayat or in a urban area?
Our village is in panchayat and our
Okay. So what is the
we have NAC like Nagar Panchayat, and it has population of around 40,000.
No, NACs are different. These are urban panchayat. No, so we are telling rural, local.
Rural is around 3,000.
Only 3,000. Okay. So, but I think in Odisha, one panchayat would have about 10,000 population. So probably it differs. Okay. In fact, I remember in the Finance Commission, Finance Commission also gives recommendation to the local governments. Like how much money should be given to the panchayat. So if you just go as per say, you decide that per panchayat we will allocate this much, then you will be in trouble. Okay, because northeastern states would have very small panchayats, so where the population would be somewhere like 2,000 population. But in Odisha it will be 10,000. I think in Kerala it would be 20,000, because Kerala is a very densely populated state. you have three densely populated states. One is Kerala, other is Bihar, and West Bengal. These are three densely populated states. Okay, so panchayat size would be different in different states, depending on the density of the population. But when you are thinking only about the optimal public goods, then you will be basically thinking the size of the public good, the optimal size and optimal population. Optimal population we have already derived that there is a congestion cost and the benefit from having more people, per capita cost declines. Okay? And now when you are providing bigger public goods, your cost is increasing, and that again your demand, your reflects your ability to pay and willingness to pay. So that equilibrium determines the optimal size of the public good. Demand and supply here, cost and benefits of providing public good depending on the population, and that's how we get it. Okay. Then criticisms. We had missed a few points in last class, so we'll be discussing all those things. Okay, so coming to the first one, the criticism of this theory of where we are using the theory of clock. So the first one is that we are assuming the taste and preferences are homogeneous, okay? And that might not be reality, but the complexity is that if the taste and preference within a group would be different, then you miss the benefits of adding more people into a jurisdiction, okay? And so then the whole argument will be lost, okay? That so different public goods, different tastes and preferences, so you provide small public goods and you don't get the benefit of adding more people. Now the per capita cost doesn't decline when you have different public goods for different population. That is one. And the second one is that there are also spillover effects. Okay, so the first one is the taste and preferences are not homogeneous, and then second one is the spillover effects. Spillover effects of the local public good. So we always think that if we are providing a local public good in one jurisdiction, then this is meant for only those people. Say in one panchayat, okay, say we are now living in Padanpur, probably this is Padanpur panchayat only. That Niger comes under Padanpur panchayat. Okay? And now suppose Padanpur panchayat is providing some public good, and you think that this is going to be used by only the people of Padanpur, not by anybody else. So can it always happen that no, these are only okay, you give some example where that although you are providing the public good for your own people only, for the people living in your own jurisdiction, but other people are also getting the benefit of it. That will be called spillover effect or externality. Give some example.
Road, street light.
Road, yes, road would be definitely one, that people who are crossing through this area would be using good road. So the friction of the car, tire would be reducing when they drive in this region if the quality is good. And light, yes, safety, from safety concern you can say that okay, Padanpur panchayat provides good street lights, and that's how people who also go through this road, they feel safe in this part. That is one external for them. For drinking water, yeah, for drinking water, what would be even tap drinking water? Say how it would be sometimes there will be spillover effect. Say Padanpur and Bhimpur are two adjacent villages, okay? And they are even two different Mauza probably. So in fact, the village behind Niger boundary is Bhimpur, and this side, this would be south or west, that is Padanpur. Now suppose the people of Bhimpur face drinking water crisis, and there are public taps in this village, and they can come and take water, right, at night, and for which they don't pay any user fee. That can happen, and that happens in villages, right? So of course this can lead to sometimes conflict. If water is really scarce, there could be fighting also. That they will stop people, and there will be security guard or people standing at night and prohibiting other people don't come. But in ordinary case, people will allow that okay, they are facing scarcity, so let them use. And similarly, you can say typical example of environmental economics that say the cows of their Bhimpur village coming and drinking the water of Padanpur village pond. That can happen, right? So, or say grazing land. Now, suppose these people, Padanpur village people are say environmental conscious. They have left some common property resource, and but Bhimpur people are selfish people. Say they have encroached all the private public lands or common property resources. So the people now come into the cows of Bhimpur come to the common property resources of Padanpur and graze. So this would be externalities, negative or positive, depending on the example. So in this case, the author argues that there is no problem for optimal population, okay? But there will be a problem for the optimal size of the public good, quantity. So for an opt, there is no problem in this case. When there is a negative externality, for optimal population, absolutely there is no problem. Okay, but for optimal size of the public good, say for example, if you would know that this public good also will be enjoyed by somebody else, you would increase it to some extent. But if you are not aware of that, you are providing, but then per capita benefit that is coming to people will be declining, right? So there is a problem for the optimal quantity, not for the optimal population. Okay? Because people are not living there. People are living in other jurisdictions, but they are taking the benefit from this. So the impact is on the quantity. Okay? So there is a problem on the optimal quantity. Okay? And then third would be the economies of scale issue that we had discussed. Economies of scale. So here we assume that there is increasing cost condition, but there could be decreasing cost condition, or there could be also constant cost condition. So that cannot be ruled out. Okay? And then fourth point is that we had discussed sometimes that that income of the people. We were discussing that your taste and preference, the demand curve will depend on the number of people living, or the income of the people. So, and that's how public good, the quality would also be different. And okay, but if that is the case, now what will happen? Suppose in one region, suppose both rich and poor people are living together. Okay? In that case, when you are imposing a tax or a user fee, it will be a common rate, a user fee, or a tax rate. Usually, tax rate should be particularly the holding tax. We are discussing, or for user fee. Then the best example would be user fee. So you are introducing a common user fee, okay? And no, I think the tax would be the best example. When you are imposing a tax, usually the rich people pay more tax. In case of holding tax, okay? The rich people pay more tax, and the poor people pay less tax. So the poor people will have always the incentive to live in a area where rich people are living, because they pay higher tax, and with that you get better public goods, okay? And the poor people do not pay much tax, but they get the benefit of the bigger public good. But the rich people will create disturbances. Some people may think that, see, these people are not paying taxes, so why should they live in our region? Okay, so this will create disturbances, and that is quite likely. In fact, so that leads to the argument of zoning. In economics, we use the theory of zoning. In fact, this is used in case of basically in urban planning. Zoning is very much used. Now, what is zoning? That you see, if you go to Bhubaneswar, you see that at one place you allow only shopping. So business activities happen at one place, residential areas are at different place, industrial activities are taking at different place, park is in a different place. So you may think that why you don't bring it together. No, you see that in residential areas there are no shopping complex at all, no market is there. Okay, and so people have to go to say unit 1 or unit 2, to buy things. Okay, there will be small markets, small business, establishment, but usually that is not permissible. Okay, so in the urban planning they keep different things at different locations, particularly industries. Manchester Industrial Estate is kept in the outskirts. In fact, now Manchester has become heart of the city also. But if you look at the original urban planning of Bhubaneswar, which was done in 1947-50, your original Bhubaneswar was starting from, you can say, Lingaraj temple, that is old town, up to Vidhan Sabha. Okay. Only this much, because Bhubaneswar's original plan was meant for only 40,000 people. Okay. And but now what is the population? Okay, if you take the entire, of course it is less than 10 lakh also, but if you include Khordha and Cuttack altogether, which now Bhubaneswar authority is basically planning that they are now planning for a mega city, Bhubaneswar, Cuttack and Khordha. So the town planning which has been prepared by IIT Kharagpur includes all these things. So so what I was telling, so since original city was only up to Vidhan Sabha, okay, they had kept Manchester Industrial Estate behind Bani Vihar, right, which is very far away. Okay. So pollution will not affect the people. Okay. So similarly, you can also say that when we are talking about the income standard and the public good, then people may think that depending on the income standard, people should live in a different region, and that's a journey. Like there should be slum, there should be rich people living at one place, medium class people living at one place. That sometimes happens because people choose their own region. So that will create disturbances. So that is another criticism. And did you discuss anything else? Yeah. So zoning is one more issue. And yes. And
marginal cost.
No, in fact, we are discussing that here we have discussed that the local public, we have considered only the provision of the local public goods. Okay, but if it will be a pure public good, okay, sometimes some pure public goods are also provided by the local government, or in fact it also happens that some public goods will be provided by one local government in multiple jurisdictions. That can happen. So in this case, this theory will not be applicable, because you lose the argument of optimal quantity and optimal population, right? So this theory is applicable for only the local public goods, okay, not for the pure public good cases. Okay. So yeah, that's all. So we conclude the story.